All right. Thank you so much for joining today in the miracle work. I'm happy that you're here and that you came to listen and came to be completely a whole part of this. What is going on? And today I decide to continue with chapter 1 of A Course in Miracles, of the Urtext of A Course in Miracles. And since that's such an incredible chapter and huge also, I decided to do now today the miracle principles, at least part of it. And say the next time we go to miracles and revelation, because that's another essential, say, part of the chapter 1. But so today the miracle principles, and the miracle principles are there are 50 of them. We're not going to go through all of them, but you will feel the essence of what they convey, and it's lovely to really hear what they say. It's a miracle in itself. So, yeah, what is a miracle? So you will discover this. And it's not about the description, but it's more common than you probably think it is. And so since this is miracle work, we might as well take a really good look at the miracle principles. And so that's what we're going to do. And in the Urtext, there's always a difference than with the blue book. It's not very blue anymore, but it's like the blue book doesn't say anything about soul, and the Urtext does. Now there are some expressions that we will use today where the word soul is embedded in it, and just in a very lovely way. So that's why it's great to use the Urtext, especially in chapter 1. I think that's the greatest, say everything is in there, nothing has been taken out. And that is really beautiful. So the edited version, you could say, like especially the first 7 chapters of the blue book are edited. Their parts changed and made readable for whoever. Like if you would download and receive what comes from the voice speaking to you, you write it down, you type it out. The first thing wouldn't be to change and edit the whole thing. And it doesn't make sense, at least not to me. So that's why I was really happy to find like this version, which is also in Burgundy red, but it's a beautiful one, and it's got all of the manuscripts, all of the things that were taken down by Helen, like even with notes, with little directions for herself that came from Jesus. So that's wonderful. And maybe they don't apply to you completely, but at least you get a sense in how Helen, for instance, is directed in her doings. And to me that is very useful information. And that's why I love to share it. And that's why I think this is completely new, because I don't hear much about the Urtext manuscripts that is being used or anything. There's still a lot of development in that people make even different versions again. Well, this one is really not used at all, and not much at least. But so complete and so beautifully done. So here we are. That was my little motivation why I used the Urtext manuscripts, the 7-volume combined edition of the Miracles in Action Press. And so the miracle principles is a great delight to have them be revealed to you in this setup, in this edition of it, because of its completedness. So to step right into them, so to speak, I'm going to share something with you that I prepared for this. Here we start. Christ inspires all miracles, which are essentially intercessions. See, I already said the word really because it's in the Blue Book. Christ inspires all miracles, which are essentially intercessions. They intercede for man's holiness and make him holy. They place man beyond the physical laws and raise him into the sphere of celestial order. In this order, man is perfect. So this is a huge miracle principle. Christ inspires all miracles. Well, that is not a surprise, is it? It's like your Christ mind is inspiring all the miracles in you. And so that's essential. Of course, it doesn't come from your ego mind. It comes from Christ within you. Within you, it inspires all miracles, which are really intercessions. Like there's an intervention going on. Quite so. Because they take you out of your humanhood, you could say. You take you out of the perceived limitations of you and recognizing at the same time your holiness. So this is really something else. See, it places man beyond the physical laws, the man-made physical laws, because in reality they don't exist. So they place man beyond the physical laws, basically where he got himself imprisoned in, and raise him into the sphere of celestial order. So here you go into a heavenly order, a celestial order. In this order, man is perfect. Wow. Of course, like man is perfect in this order, in celestial order, in the I am order. I am as God created me. His Son can suffer nothing. I am not a body. I am free. I am as God created me, whole and perfect as I was created. We say this all the time, but here actually it's, put in one expression, one miracle principle, and they make a lot of sense. So you could directly say, like, healing that comes from here is totally reasonable. If you start to dissect this a little bit, you already see that Christ inspires all miracles, which are essentially intercessions. That's what's happening. So they inspire. They intercede for man's holiness. You forgot about your holiness. You got stuck in the physical laws, so to speak, and here's your way out of that. It's a miracle. It takes you out of the constriction of the physical temporal laws, like everything that is related to temporality and limitation, lack, disease, disaster, and you name the whole shebang. It's like physical laws. They take you out of it into a celestial order. In this order you are perfect. So you're literally being lifted out of that by the miracle, by this Christ-inspired miracle. So in other words, you can actually say it's a remembrance of your true essence. It's allowing the I am to come into you, like the I am to come into your consciousness with no restriction, not by your control, no, by a miraculous intercession. This is really great. So this is an essential miracle principle to think about, to let it come in, to enjoy, to let yourself be directed by it. So the second one I put down is the soul expression. The soul never loses its communication with God. The soul never loses its communion with God. Only the mind and body need atonement. The miracle joins in the atonement of Christ by placing the mind in the service of spirit. This establishes the proper function of mind and abolishes its error. This is packed too, right? This is full of it too. The soul never loses its communication with God. So you could say that is your remembrance center inside yourself, is your soul in perfect communion with God. Never loses that communion. Always there. This is your spark, your core, your soul. That's the word chosen for it. Only the mind and body need atonement, because the mind apparently can think things that have no reality. It appears that way. It needs atonement. It needs, say, undoing. Just like the body needs undoing, because mind and body is actually, an extension of the mind. The miracle joins in the atonement of Christ by placing the mind in the service of the Spirit. That's why we say, like, okay, Spirit, take it from me. Undo this for me. I don't know what to do with this. Show me. And all of this. Like, in the practice, Spirit has a central role as the bridge between you in a state of, transformation, atonement, to God. So this establishes the proper function of mind. What is the proper function of mind, you ask? And it abolishes its errors. So the mind can apparently have expressions of errors. So to use it properly, how do you use your mind properly? Well, this is a good one. I'm going to close this for a second. So how do you use your mind properly? This is really interesting. So to use your mind properly, it has to be open. So it has to be open instead of anything else. It is like, it cannot think, really. Like, it cannot think like you think it does. It cannot determine things. It cannot give direction. It cannot do all these things. It's like the whole undoing or atonement process has everything to do with, in fact, releasing the mind's functions as you see them, and letting that be, say, set free. So the mind is open. In your openness and right-mindedness, in your miracle-mindedness, you're open to receive light, love, the miracle, and in that, it actually fulfills its function. It is not a director. It doesn't have to tell you where to go, because the mind, when it's open, it receives all the information that it needs to function. Now that is already a miracle in itself if you start to see that. So a miracle, we'll see that later too, is actually a thought, is an idea. And that idea shifts your consciousness, that turns it, say, upside down or inside out, however you want to see that. So we continue in a moment. But see, I love to see this picture, if you visualize it, of a soul in you that is continuously in communion with God. Like there's nothing to change about that. It's like it's untouchable. It's always shining its light. It is the spark in you that you cannot lose. This is really essential. So now when your mind is open, and that what shines, so to speak, that what is your soul, starts to direct you, the light, the guiding light for you. It's like then it can come to expression and speak of the communion and say, in fact, heal, because it becomes an extension of the communion. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's no obstacle anymore that obscures the light. There's nothing that obstructs it. And that's why the soul can start to, in fact, speak. The soul can actually extend itself through this expression, through this way of expressing itself. Totally lovely to see it that way. And this is what it says in the miracle principles. The soul never loses its communication with God, or communion, with God. Only the mind and the body need atonement, undoing. The miracle joins in the atonement of Christ by placing the mind in the service of spirit. So this is what we say too with the making decisions. Like I'm not going to make any decisions by myself. I hand them over to Spirit. He will tell me exactly what to do, where to go, and what to say. You know, we read this in the rest of the course too. Like, and there's some of the lessons are even directed to that. Hand it over to Spirit. Show me where to go, what to do, what to say, and who to meet. And even when to perform a miracle. We'll come to that in a second. When to perform a miracle. It's not up to you. It has nothing to do with your ideas about it, in other words. So we come to that. Miracles honor man because he is lovable. Miracles dispel illusions about himself and perceive the light in him. They thus atone for his errors by freeing him from his own nightmares. They release him from a prison in which he has imprisoned himself. Well, by freeing his mind from illusions, they restore his sanity and place him at the feet of Jesus. That is also very specific. I love it. Miracles honor man because he is lovable. They dispel illusions about himself and perceive the light in him. They thus atone for his errors by freeing him from his own nightmares. They release him from a prison in which he has imprisoned himself. By freeing his mind from illusions, they restore his sanity and place him at the feet of Jesus. So, being freed from your own nightmares, perceiving the light in you, releasing you from the prison in which you, you've put yourself. By freeing his mind from illusions, sanity is restored, and it places you at the feet of Jesus. So, what does that mean, at the feet of Jesus? Well, you could say it like this. Like, if you see it like this, then it's very practical too. Like, if you don't know where to go, you might as well follow the footsteps, in the footsteps. It's like you have guidance. It's like one step at a time. But you follow the guidance that is given. You could say that it's Jesus. You're following in the footsteps of Jesus. He will tell you where to go. So Jesus is standing at the end of time, like as a resurrected man. When he resurrected, you resurrected. So he can guide you to the place where resurrection becomes like complete, you could say. So this is of course a bit of a mystical way to say this, but in essence it is what is going on. So you can also say it like this, is like the miracle undoes the whole temporal sequence. It changes in that, like this is also one of the miracle principles. So it's like it works in time, but it is not ruled by time. That means that on the way to your realization as the Christ that you are, which is already accomplished, but on your way to it, to fully realize that, to have that fully in your awareness, you make miraculous steps by allowing the miracle to come to you, by being open to receive it, and they start to happen. And it takes you out of your, say, imprisonment of time and space, and lift you up to the celestial order for a moment. Then you appear to be returning back into time and space, but you actually enter in a different time altogether. So that is what I meant with the leap, or the miraculous steps that are in here. It's like it is not ruled by time. So actually a lot of time is being, say, collapses when a miracle occurs. You're ending up further in time, closer to the end of time. And the end of time is nothing but the idea of a full realization of who you truly are. So the word resurrection is then there, not having any ideas about the body, this world, matter, and all of that. Like everything that needs undoing or atoning is being undone, is literally healing. So that is what is happening here in this miracle procedure, and where we use the miracle principles. And there's more. Imagine that there are 50 miracle principles. Oh, that's so great. So here's another one. The miracle restores the soul to its fullness. By atoning for lack, it establishes perfect protection. The strength of the soul leaves no room for intrusions. The forgiven are filled with the soul, and their soul forgives in return. It is the duty of the released to release their brothers. Hey, here's the duty that's being expressed. So the miracle restores the soul to its fullness. It brings it back to itself. The soul always in communion with God, with wholeness. By atoning for lack, it establishes perfect protection. The strength of the soul leaves no room for intrusions, like it's not being influenced by any kind of disruption. The forgiven are filled with the soul, and their soul forgives in return. It is the duty of the released to release their brothers. Like this is what you're naturally going to do if you come into the miraculous state of mind. You want to give it away. If you experience for a moment your wholeness and feel, say, or experience the expression, or the expression of the soul, like perfect communion with the Father, you want to give that away. In that you release your brothers. The forgiven are filled with the soul, and their soul forgives in return. Like what would it attack if it realizes its complete oneness with it? Why would it attack itself? It would have no purpose. It would have no reason for it. The answer is never perform a miracle without asking me if you should. So the answer to the question, when should I perform a miracle? Here's the answer. The answer is never perform a miracle without asking me if you should. This spares you from exhaustion. And because you act under direct communication, the trance becomes unnecessary. Because miracles are expressions of love, it does not follow that they will always be effective. Miracles are expressions of love. It does not follow that they will always be effective. I am the only one who can perform miracles indiscriminately, because I am the atonement. You have a role in the atonement, which I will dictate to you. So here it becomes obvious the, say, Jesus principle in all of this. Like, you cannot do this without direction. You don't know how to do this. You don't know. You have a role in the atonement, but it doesn't mean that you know how to do it. So you perform that role and you listen. So this is a good principle to stop for a second too. It's like the principle here that's being given is, in fact, never just do what you think is the best in the situation. Never think that you know how to heal or how to dissolve or how to undo or how to release your brother. You don't know how to do that. So it has to be under guidance. Since you're playing the role, you're actually performing that role, and you receive the direction when it's given. So, and this is really something else. So the thing that happens to me applying this is that when I feel I don't have the impulse to do it, I will not do it. When somebody calls, when I see that my phone is ringing, so, oh, this is this person. It is. I ask, like, should I? And then there's a response, like, I don't feel it, so I'm not going to do anything with it. Literally, I don't even pick up the phone then. You know, it's like this. And that's, I discovered, like, there's never an accident in there. There's never a communication in there. I can still pick up the phone, of course, and say, like, well, this is not the time for it, sorry. But even that is taken care of. Like, it really does not matter. I ask, it would be the same as somebody coming up to you and you feel like this is not the time for it. I can feel it. It's not the time for it. No, it's not working like that. So this listening is something that becomes like a second nature for you. But it's good to practice and to ask, show me, do I need to perform a miracle? Do I need to take this? Do I need to do this? Do I need to express this way? Tell me, show me. I listen. You direct me. See, then you are open-minded to receive it in the right time, the right place, the right way, and you don't get exhausted. Like it says in the beginning here too, it's like you don't get exhausted. Otherwise there's a temptation to do too much while that is not necessary. And this is working perfectly, speaking from experience, like it's working perfectly. You cannot believe how well that functions. So then also it becomes, since you are the instrument or you performing the role, since you are an instrument, you're not concerned with an outcome either. You're not concerned with how this will work out for anyone. Like, you don't even give that a thought. And that's sets you free, but also the one who is in contact with you. It's like your brother. So really essential and very practical, a very practical way to deal with this. And so listening is, of course, something that we already do in our meditation, for instance, to be still and hear, Lord, thy servant heareth, is what we say sometimes in the meditation. Like this is on a moment-by-moment basis, the instruction that you ask for. It's like, show me. Do I? And you can of course do this in the morning meditation that you do, or your morning quiet time that you spend. Like, show me what to do, where to go, who to meet, what to say, and how to respond. Like, do that for me. Show me that. So this really like activates a communication with Jesus, with the atonement principle, you could say, with atonement itself, and works efficient. Like, there's no overdoing related to it. It is fresh and crisp and new and always right, like this. So we continue. God would be mocked if any of his creations lacked holiness. It's like mocked is then not taken serious, so to speak, or not seen for what it is. God would be mocked if any of his creations lacked holiness. The creation is whole. The mark of wholeness is holiness, not holes. Like, there are no holes in it. The sonship has no holes anywhere. Wholeness is the perceptual content of the miracle. It thus corrects or atones for the faulty perception of lack, in whatever form. See, this is a great one too. I had to share this too. It's like, God would be mocked if any of his creations lacked holiness. So holiness can always be found in any creation of God. Any creations, like without an exception, without a hole in that perfection. The creation is whole. The mark of wholeness is holiness, and not holes. The sonship has no holes anywhere. Wholeness is the perceptual content of the miracle. Say, wholeness, seeing the perfection in it, is the way that you see the content of the miracle. It thus corrects or atones for the faulty perception of lack. So that's the miraculous change that you are perceiving when you experience a miracle. You are being taken out of the physical realm, so to speak, for just a moment. Say, being lifted up into invisibility and returning to the place. Like, suddenly you see, oh no, there is no separation. No, there is perfect communication. This is what makes it a miracle. Like, for just a moment that is occurring. Suddenly I recognize my oneness with my brother. Suddenly I recognize that there's no mistake, that nothing went wrong, even though I just thought that for a moment. But this has taken me out of my misperception. For just a moment I feel the wholeness. I feel how perfect everything is. I feel the love of God, you could say. I feel completely comforted in a way that was lacking in a moment ago, before I experienced the miracle. I'm just saying this in a way that I experience it, and so that you can recognize it too, how it works. So, okay, here we continue. A major contribution of miracles is their strength in releasing man from his misplaced sense of isolation, deprivation, and lack. They are affirmations of sonship, which is a state of completion and abundance. So a major contribution of miracles is their strength in releasing man from the sense of isolation. So you could say, like, everything that contributes to that is a miracle. So we also say like every expression of love is in fact a miracle. A miracle is an expression of love, of connectedness. So any time that you see the sense of isolation, deprivation, or lack disappearing from your consciousness for just a moment is a miraculous moment. So that makes it very recognizable. It's like you feel comforted suddenly. You feel everything is all right. It's like there's suddenly something been taken from you. You feel all right. It is okay. You're connected. Yeah, you're not in separation. Like you're not missing anything. And that's lovely. You know, that's lovely to recognize it, because you need to recognize it, otherwise you miss the information that it's actually occurring to you and think like, well, I don't know if I ever experienced a miracle. Oh yes, you did, for sure. So however that's being expressed to you, in you, through you, with you, it doesn't matter. So any expression of love is really what a miracle is. And this can be somebody looking at you in a way that you feel connected again. It's like, oh wow, thank you. Whatever that was. I was like lost for just a second, and here I'm back. Well, this is what's happening. So what I'm actually trying to say is like the miracle principles are not to trigger your imagination of what a miracle would be or how huge and how wonderful it is. No, they actually don't matter that much. It is more like a natural sign of like you're in the flow, so to speak. You're in the recognition that of wholeness. That's the shortest way to say it. Like you recognize your wholeness. You recognize your connectedness to your brother. And that immediately gives you a sense of love, of transcendence, you could say. So that's how natural the miracles are. So if another miracle principle is that if that does not occur, something goes wrong. It's like something went wrong. You don't have an open mind to receive this. You hold on to something. Then you don't experience it. See, here we are. Miracles arise from a miraculous state of mind. By being one, this state of mind goes out to anyone. Really, it's not selective at all. Of course not. It's inclusive. Everyone's included. Miracles arise from a miraculous state of mind. By being one, the state of mind goes out to anyone, even without the awareness of the miracle worker himself. The impersonal nature of miracles is because atonement itself is one, uniting all creations with their creator. Like it is not selective, it's impersonal. It has an impersonal nature. So that's why it's all-inclusive. So this is really essential too. It's like you can practice this anywhere. And you're a miracle worker, as it says here. But here it is, like ask which miracles to perform. It is not like running around through town, making connection with everyone, reminding, yay, hi, how are you doing, booty, booty, booty. They're like, no, that's not what a miracle worker does either. So it's like there's a whole scenario, or there's a whole plan behind appearances. And you are being asked to follow the direction of what to do when, and to perform which miracle when. And by, say, coming into the flow of listening and following the impulses that you get in that, it starts to work. You start to see like, oh, yes, I feel that, I can completely trust that, and I get the reflection back that is received, or that is, I'm experiencing my oneness with my brother. What a perfect timing. So it's like it's confirming to you as well as to the one with you, the connectedness, the oneness. Like it confirms to you both. That is really what a miracle is. You recognize the love that you feel for each other. But it's impersonal. It has nothing to do with a relationship or anything except the total relationship of allness. So that's why it's so exciting, miracle work, you could say. Like it's exciting in the sense of you're being guided through your perception of this world, through your mind, you could say. And you start to come into a sense of open-mindedness, not knowing how to respond to any of it or when, but having the guidance with you that will instruct you and give you everything that you need to respond or act properly at the right time. Being very effective in that sense, being also very, very careful for yourself, and not to overdo it. So really important. It's not that you're going to save yourself or your brother. You know? It is much more like you recognize that you are saved when it's happening in the right time. You get the confirmation, you are saved. You're whole and perfect as you were created. There's no lack in any of it. So this applies to every situation that you're in, but doesn't determine the role that you are playing. That is going to be given to you. So that is, see how that every time comes back in the acts that we perform or in the way that we are present. Let me see if there's still more. Miracles arise from a miraculous state of mind. By being one, this state of mind goes out to everyone, to anyone, even without the awareness of the miracle worker himself. Like whether you're aware of it or not, it is still the case. The impersonal nature of miracles is because atonement itself is one, uniting all creations with their creator. And this is really beautiful too. The miracle is an expression of an inner awareness of Christ and acceptance of his atonement. The mind is then in a state of grace and naturally becomes gracious, both to the host within and the stranger without. By bringing in the stranger, he becomes your brother. Now this is really like where it happens, you could say. The miracle is an expression of an inner awareness of Christ and acceptance of his atonement. The mind is then in a state of grace and naturally becomes gracious, both to the host within and the stranger without. By bringing in the stranger, he becomes your brother. See, you can't do it without an inner awareness of Christ and being willing to be undone in that acceptance of his atonement. When your mind is in a miracle-minded state, so to speak, in an open state, it is actually in a state of grace and naturally becomes gracious. Like you're open to receive, you're open to do whatever, realizing that the Christ is in you and that it is speaking to you and directing you, or spirit you could say, the spirit is directing you in every step along the way. So in your openness to that, miracles are natural. They are natural. And your graciousness is natural. Because what would you attack if you are open to, in fact, invite every stranger in and recognizing his holiness as a brother of you? Like, it is only inviting you to have this idea of stranger being undone in you, or thinking in any terms of separation regarding your brother, any terms of defensiveness. Like all of that dissolves in the atoning principle that your Christ mind is. See, here's the miracle worker at work, so to speak, where his mind is open. So what is the natural state of mind? Is openness, is miracle-mindedness. It's open to receive instructions when to perform which miracle and when. But the state of mind is continuously openness, open to listen, to follow the guidance and direction. See, and then there's nothing to attack, because that is not how this works. Like the mind is open to extend. When to extend is also given. So this is what I mean, and I've repeated that. So this is what I wanted to put in today, like this is what I wanted to share today in chapter 1. We did first the introduction to the miracle, then there are the miracle principles, and there are, like I said, like at least 50, I think even more. And they slowly but certainly bring you to the place where there's you could say like a revelation readiness in your mind that's going to occur. And this is where we are going to take a look at in the next meeting that we have, in the next miracle work. So that it starts with you being introduced to the miracle, you discovering what it actually is and how you can immediately apply it, because you are a miracle worker. Like, you can immediately apply it, but not in the way that you think you should. So practicing being open to receive the guidance for this is the first step in that. And also not being afraid to ask for it and applying it. But at the same time, coming into a state, it's like training yourself, training your mind to come into Christ awareness, that is in fact with you all the time. So that means your instructor is with you all the time too. Your guidance is with you continuously. So there's no situation where this does not work. That's also one thing that you start to discover. So now when you practice this and receive the gifts of that, how beautiful this act of love is, you see that you become ready for revelations, so that revelations are what we said the other day too. It's like they're moments of unspeakable love. This is just happening in you in relationship with your Creator. It's like a soul moment, the communion that is taking place, unspeakable love. So that's not miraculous. It is, revelation is purely individual. It is about you receiving that, having that awareness suddenly, having that experience suddenly. So while the miracle is inviting your brother in, having a moment in which you start to see his holiness, recognizing your oneness with him. So that's always with the miracle. It's like it's always, you could say, brother related. Seeing the change from stranger into brother, allowing yourself to lower your defenses and have a moment of love together. So this is all very well explained, you could say, or very well cleared up. It's clear in its expression. Not what I'm doing now, but so practice with it and dedicate your day to it. that is really where this is about. It's like this is your possibility to bring this into practice. So your day should be devoted to miracles. And that's what it says too in chapter 1. It's like your day should be devoted to miracles. But always ask which miracle to perform when. And then you're all great. You're all wonderful. Because something is really happening then for you. All right. So thank you for this so far. I want to read one miracle prayer since we're into the miracles in this miracle work. And there's one that is waiting for us. And yeah, this is the one here. So I'll read it from the book. It is lesson 350. So it's really the last days of the year almost. 350. Miracles mirror God's eternal love. To offer them is to remember Him, and through His memory to save the world. What we forgive becomes part of us, as we perceive ourselves. The Son of God incorporates all things within Himself as you created Him. Your memory depends on His forgiveness. What He is unaffected by His thoughts, but what He looks upon is their direct result. Therefore, my Father, I would turn to you. Only your memory will set me free, and only my forgiveness teaches me to let your memory return to me and give it to the world in thankfulness. And as we gather miracles from Him, we will indeed be grateful, for as we remember Him, His Son will be restored to us in the reality of love. So doing this one more time. Miracles mirror God's eternal love. To offer them is to remember Him, and through His memory to save the world. What we forgive becomes part of us, as we perceive ourselves. The Son of God incorporates all things within Himself, as you created Him. Your memory depends on His forgiveness. What He is unaffected by His thoughts, but what He looks upon is their direct results. And therefore, my Father, I would turn to you. Only your memory will set me free, and only my forgiveness teaches me to let your memory return to me and give it to the world in thankfulness. And as we gather miracles from Him, we will indeed be grateful. For as we remember Him, His Son will be restored to us in the reality of love. Miracles mirror God's eternal love. So thank you for this. Thank you for looking at this with me and receiving these miracle principles today. So next week we continue with revelation, miracles and revelation. And I already made a bit of a step to it, but that's going to be wonderful too. And it's all still chapter 1. So thank you for everything. And if you want to listen to, for instance, the first chapter, I made an audio book with the first 31 chapters. So, and also with the first chapter, of course, that is where it starts with. And I will put a link to that in the description. But yeah, you can always find it on YouTube. So there's an audiobook with the workbook being read to you. And it's lovely to hear, to listen to it. And so enjoy that. Thank you for everything today, and see you soon. Thank you so much.